goosebumps every time, yeah, 713. Do the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and honest, rider. I get those goosebumps every time. I'm hard to make everything feel fine. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the high, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, we can throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Up the mags.
Yes, sir.
Back again. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC. We had a little bit of a break over the internationals, but we're back now to discuss all things transfers tonight. It's a bit of a transfer special, and looking forward to welcoming Graeme on in just a second. But Daz, how are you this evening? Tuesday.
Bit of a break. Pete, is it? It's been a while. Pete. Yeah, with four shows in a row and then a bit of a break. And it was well overdue as well. Back into it now again, and back into the build up to the restart again after the international break. But all's good with me, Pete. All's good in the office today, so not long in. But how are you?
Same, not long in. Work today, as always, and then rush back straight in, setting up ready for Graeme, so we can talk all things Newcastle. So, not too bad myself. And let us know how you're feeling in the chat. See a few tunes in there. Get your tunes in, and I'm sure we'll get them on the screen as the show is going on. And it's going to be interesting because we're building towards the transfer window. We're still in November, still early days, but there's started to be a few little murmurs coming out regarding Newcastle players and potential Newcastle signings. So why not welcome in Mr. Graeme Bailey to talk about it? Let's bring him in.
Joelinton's biggest fan. It's Darth Vader himself. It's Graeme Bailey. I'm Graeme.
Good evening, guys. How are you?
Not too
Not
bad.
too bad, Graeme.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
Yeah, definitely. Always welcome. It's been an interesting start to the season for Newcastle United, a bit up and down, but at this moment in time, playing really, really well. What have you made of Newcastle United's season? Because you had the chance to catch it since the season started.
Yeah, it's been an indifferent start. I thought, you started off playing badly but winning, and then but you had a few games where you played well and lost. So it was the antithesis of what you were doing. I think you are in a good position. Speaking to Daz off screen before, and I think you're about where you need to be. Yeah. Obviously, I think the real one worry for Newcastle, I think I put Tottenham in this bracket as well. Not really United, I don't see them making a run, although they are only 3 points adrift. And Villa is the former Chelsea. None of us really saw Chelsea having this top 4 run. I did think they'd make top 6, but I think Chelsea is going to be the real thorn in the side of not just Newcastle, as I say, but I think Tottenham, Villa as well, those top 4 aspirational clubs. I think Chelsea have really found a formula. The players are buying in, and the thing with them is they always had the squad capabilities, didn't they? They were always full of talent, and it's going to be a real battle for Newcastle to finish top 4. It's a real knife edge of, you could finish 5th, but you could finish 10th as well, isn't it? It's really grouped up there in the middle, because you've still got the likes of Fulham and Bournemouth in there, who on the day are capable of good football as well. But Newcastle, I think at this point, I think top 6 is likely, top 4 is the hope, but you don't want to finish outside the top 6. I think outside the top 6, depending on the silverware, the side dishes, it would represent a bad season if you didn't finish top 6. But that, I said, depends what happens with the cups, and you still got a chance in 2 of them.
Yeah, I think and it could have been the case last season. It looks more likely to be this season that depending on who wins the cups, like as you just said, it could be as low as 8th that could get European football, with Champions League getting 5th, and so there is an opportunity there. But like you say, it's top 6 at the moment, and I think we're in a, from what's been a topsy-turvy start to the season, I think we're in a really good position. What is it, 1 point off top 4, a run of games, and with Daz, we've talked about this as well, that are more than winnable. Winning up till Christmas. Go on, Daz. Sorry.
Yeah, no, look, as Graeme said, like we started poorly, but we're winning, and then we started playing and we're losing, but it's turned around right before the international break. And we're in a good position now to build on that, but it's all about where we are come Christmas time, and then going into the January window and getting to hopefully flex a bit then in January window. Since we didn't bring anyone in the summer apart from Lloyd Kelly and a free, and the window last January window, nothing happened for anybody really. So to be in the touching distance of the European spaces, and even around the 5th. Would be nicely come Christmas, but let's see where
you've got a very healthy. I was looking at fixtures there, guys. It's in league terms before January. You're looking at 6 out of 8. You should be winning there, shouldn't you? So
on paper,
yeah,
absolutely. There's games you won. I think we've discussed it before, but looking at the run. Maybe Liverpool at home. We haven't got a good record against Liverpool.
But I'd say even your two hardest games against Villa and Liverpool are both at home.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of games, but while in and around where we don't, they've got extra games in and around that with the Champions League and so on. So, fingers crossed.
Yeah, it looks more positive, certainly putting it that way. And I think as Newcastle fans, we're definitely bouncing in to this next round of fixtures rather than worrying about what's going to happen and how we're going to be playing. So, it looks like we're unscathed. Everyone's come back from internationals in good health. So it looks like we'll have a full squad potentially to choose from. And Daz, let's not forget the potential of Kieran Trippier and Callum Wilson potentially coming back and being available for the Monday night game against West Ham. So again, we're adding 2 players who haven't really been available to us back into the squad. So that's
I think the hierarchy will be delighted to see them 2 fit again, so they can move them on in January.
I saw that article. Yeah, that was earlier.
There we go. I can smell an article coming along. But I'm sure we'll get into that for sure. But
yes, I think Eddie will be delighted, as I say, but upstairs will be delighted for different reasons. So.
Definitely. But look, no, that's a great point, Dave. We haven't yet seen Wilson. I haven't seen him in any of the picks when they went to Saudi. Hopefully, we'll start to see a couple of pictures featuring in the next couple of days that may well see him and Trippier in there. So let's fingers crossed, wait and see. But one of the main reasons why, obviously, we've done this show tonight and welcome you back on, Graeme, is there's been a bit of a back and forth with regards to Alexander Isak. So with his situation, it's been a little bit up in the air. No one, or we're getting lots of different things from lots of different people with regards to Isak, and we're not sure which way to turn. So initially, you did a piece when Gordon penned his new deal, and it was then discussed that we were going to turn our attentions to Isak. Widely reported that was going to be sort of the case. It was then reported, of course, yourself reported it, that Alexander Isak's contract talks had stalled, but there was a confidence that there was going to be a deal done. Then you've reported as well that the camp have been left shocked by Newcastle United's stance. They've seemingly kind of stalled on contract talks, or they've halted them. And you touched on the fact that there might be an expectation that he leaves in the summer. But we've had obviously counterclaims and lots of different opinions. Luke Edwards has come out and said and wrote this, but actually it came from
a Swedish interview, and obviously we don't actually know which bit he was talking about. He wasn't asked a specific question, was he? So the rumours we don't know which side of the coin he was talking about, do we?
Okay. Well, from what was said from Isak in his words, for the purpose of people watching, the only thing I can say is that a lot of information, rumours, often come out. Much of what is read is not true. So that's about all I can say on the whole thing. And that's kind of all he said on that. People have interpreted that the rumours of him not having an issue with the contract or having an issue with the contract talks is not true. Lots of toing and froing. From what we've seen over the last months or two, okay, where do you see this, Graeme? From what you reported, where are we right now, in your opinion, with Alexander Isak and his contract?
Well, obviously, I think it was a few shows ago when I came on. Talks with Isak have been going on for quite a while initially, and they really accelerated around Easter time. And the expectation then, Pete, was that it would get done over the summer. It's just going to be a natural progression. I've done the Bruno Guimaraes contract. Isak was next up. And I will point to, a lot of Newcastle, Isak doesn't need to do this deal. Well, Bruno got his new deal 18 months into his stay. So Isak was next in line. And, the talks were ongoing because Isak isn't one of Newcastle's highest paid players. Don't get me wrong. He's on a decent wedge. He's not one of the highest paid players, though. He isn't. So that's where we thought it was going to go. I was speaking to sources and it was ongoing. Then it all came around with Anthony Gordon getting done. And the bit where I do about the camp being shocked, and I think, again, people misinterpreted. I never said by being shocked doesn't mean you're angry. Doesn't mean necessarily you're happy. They were just shocked at the turn of events because having, on the one hand, they're presenting Gordon's new deal as, 2030, this and that. But then with Eddie's comments about the deal, there's no issues in the short term. But then he started talking about the PSR implications of giving Alexander Isak a new deal. Would it impact on the rest of the squad? We have to be careful about this and that. And it was inferring that Isak's deal was, from my understanding, was so big it might interfere. Now, and I'm coming at this, my personal opinion, guys, is I think Alexander Isak's new deal should be the first thing on Newcastle's agenda. Get him signed up. I think if Newcastle are even entertaining allowing this guy to leave, I think that's a huge mistake. I don't think they should let him out the door at any point. I think having a striker who is he's such a huge talent, and you know that from the interest coming in. There's a lot of number 9s on the market at the moment, from Gaio Torres to Sesko to Vlahovic. But Isak, if you're asking all these Premier League teams who are looking, Chelsea, Arsenal, Isak's the one they want. He's the proven Premier League striker. He is the one. And even I know Matt reported Man City and Liverpool are even in the background keeping a close eye on the situation. Isak is the one. So from where I'm coming at, guys, I really don't see how it's like the Holy Trinity at Newcastle at the minute: Bruno, Anthony, and Isak. Newcastle have to keep those three if they want to win the Premier League, as they do in the next 3 to 5 years. They need to keep Alexander Isak. It's all very well fans say, if he doesn't want to sign, sell him, but it's very hard to find strikers of his quality in the prime. And I think Newcastle will be making a massive mistake here. Yes, there's might be PSR regulations, but if he wants the biggest contract in Newcastle's history, I'm not saying he does, but if he does, then surely he deserves it. He's, goals make prizes in football, and he provides them for Newcastle. It's a very hard thing to get, and yeah. So from my point of view, from what I understand, back to your original question, Pete, is that at the moment the talks aren't ongoing. It's Isak isn't unhappy, but I said the camp are being a bit shocked by how things have transpired, because they genuinely thought they'd have been signed and sealed by now. That's not saying it's all one way, because obviously the things they were saying to Newcastle wasn't all in agreement with Newcastle as well. So it's not all one way traffic. There's give and take. But I just think Newcastle have to get this done. As it stands now, I don't think it will be done. I don't think they'll get a new deal, and then we'll see how it plays out over the summer. But that can change. Of course it can. The player's not unhappy. He's not banging. He's not stamping his feet, because he knows, he's got a lot of interest out there from the whole of world football would take him. There's interest all over the world in him. But yeah, as it stands now, it's and as Eddie said himself personally, he said it's not an issue in the short term. That's not. If I was a Newcastle fan, which obviously I'm not, that's not what I want to hear Eddie Howe saying about Alexander Isak. I haven't been saying I want him to say Alexander's next up. Yeah, first possible opportunity, we're going to get him to sign a new long-term deal. That's the way I would be coming at it.
I wonder, just thinking a bit differently. Let's say we were in talks to them now at this moment in time. Would he look for something like a release clause, like the Bruno deal, and then are we putting a target on his back for the summer with that potential release clause in place if we weren't to get into?
Well, that is the thing. I was told that obviously that was part of the talks, was a release clause, and obviously there's debate as to how high it is. I don't think Newcastle like the release clauses particularly, and there isn't one in the Gordon deal from what we're told. So it's fascinating. It really is. I just, I said, and a lot of Newcastle fans will think I'm like being anti-Newcastle. I think you should be doing everything you can to keep this guy. I think he's so good. He's so special. And it's not easy to find these players. It's all very well saying, go and sign Gallagher, go and sign Sesko. It's not that easy, guys. There's no guarantees with any of those players. This is a proven Premier League striker. After Erling Haaland in world football right now, after Erling Haaland, who would you pick? He's up there with the best in the world. He really is.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I am. I do think he's got 3 years left on his deal, moving into the summer. I think if he was going into,
but Pete, from Isaac's point of view, though, Pete, Bruno had the same left on his deal when he got a new one. So that's so. It's all like we're comparing. They dealt Bruno. They gave him a release clause. He'd only been at the club 18 months when he got it, and as you say, he had 3 years left on his deal when he got it. It's a very similar circumstance. Yes, Isaac, now because you've waited. If you dealt him in early in the year, perhaps a little less. Yes, he does want an awful lot of money, and we probably, ballpark figure, he probably does want 150 grand a week. But for one of the world's best strikers, that's what Newcastle are playing in this pool now. You're fishing in a big boy's pond now. You can't just get bargains all the time. And the deal you got him on looks like a bargain now. It was a great deal when you did it from Sociedad because he'd failed at Dortmund, and it was a bit of a gamble spending the money you did. But now he's proven himself. You've got to deal him in.
There's an interesting point that James has made in the chat, and I'm inclined to agree with this. He's put. Do you not think they're waiting until June the 30th for whether they qualify for Europe, and B, it's a new PSR year, so would make more sense to sign him up on a new PSR year? It might mean that there's more money to spend potentially in January because it has been documented that any new contract, particularly if it's a significant one, like Isak said, and Graeme, I agree with you, he deserves that type of money because of how good he is. And maybe are they saying, right, okay, we need to strengthen the squad because we didn't in the summer. We prioritize that in January, use all that money to do that. And then in the summer, if we get European football, we get more in the coffers that can go towards that contract. And then with 3 years left to go, we then do what we did with Bruno at that 3-year stage and renew the contract. Could that be within the realms of possibility?
Oh, 100%. Of course it can. Whilst he's still at St. James, you've got to do everything you can to keep him. And that's possible. And again, we sit here now in November, guys, where you're 1 point off fourth in eighth. Like, I don't think any of us would put our mortgage on. Like, if someone said, "Oh, we're definitely finished fourth," okay, it's from fourth to 10th. It's impossible to pick, isn't it? It really is. And Isak's probably thinking that as well. I think that European football will have a massive say in this, and again, I think that will, we know Gordon and Bruno in the deals, but Newcastle have to start have to finish in the right positions for these players as well. If you're pushing to be one of the best in England, you can't be finishing definitely outside the top 6 at the very least. But I think Pete, that is a valid point. Obviously, the players get dealt in as well in terms of you can make up for lost revenue. So if he says you owe me 6 months or whatever, that happens all the time in football deals. We know that, so it's possible. It's a dangerous deal waiting to see if you qualify for Europe, particularly. Obviously, PSR. This will be the last year of this type of PSR because the new regulations come in for the following year. But yeah, obviously I'm not a PSR expert. I'm really not. But Yeah, it's possible. Of course, it's Pete. Yeah, whilst he's still at the club, anything is possible. But we are where we are at the moment with it. But and yeah, to get into Europe, we're going to need Isak firing all the way. But it is dangerous whilst he's not that he's not tied up, but this whole situation, even from Eddie's comments, it has piqued the interest of all his suitors, hasn't it?
Yeah. Which is natural. I think this is the thing. This is something that I think Newcastle fans are not struggling to get used to, but it's been unusual for us after the Mike Ashley era, where we've actually got big clubs and lots of clubs interested in some of our best players. It hasn't really ever been the case, and we've never really had players that other clubs have desperately wanted, and this is a new feeling for Newcastle United fans, and we have to get used to it. If we're going to be fighting at that top table, then we have to be prepared for top teams to come and want our players. But whether they can get them is a different thing. And having 3 years left on his contract, I do think will definitely benefit. I think Yano put a good point in the chat, Daz, as well, around Callum Wilson. Obviously, Callum Wilson, will we expect he's going to leave? Graeme, I think you're probably of the same mindset or maybe different. We expect him to leave, and those wages could well help in a contract talk or a further investment in the summer as well, do you think?
Yeah, I don't see the possibility of him staying just purely for fitness. And, I think ideally the club would move him on in January, but he's on a big deal. He's a very hard player to move on, as we know. So possibly in January, most likely in the summer. He will be moving on, and he'll move on with good wishes. He served the club well during his time. It's just he's been hugely unfortunate with his injuries, hasn't
he? Yeah, definitely. Good.
Maybe sticking with the outgoings and link to the article that I saw you tweeting out or retweeting there this evening. The other two players on that list for potential exits in January are Miggy and Trips. What's your thoughts on where they might end up, or what's happening?
Yeah, Almiron's a strange one because it turns out his agent says he's under contract till 2027. Doesn't really make a massive difference in that terms because whether it's 2-3 years, obviously he's surplus to requirements in the current system. He's on good money. He's not on mega money, obviously. So it's just a matter of where can he go, and there is options for him out there. Saudi, MLS, where he's a bit of a cult figure, like he is at Newcastle. He's a bit of a cult figure out in the MLS as well. I think he'll go in January. Eddie really wants to make sure that it's covering, but it does look like they'll try at least for that right-sided player, and but getting Almiron out will help with that. So I think he's, of the three, and we'll speak about Trippier as well, but of the three, he's most likely to leave, and he has the most, I guess, interest as well. He's only 30, isn't he, Miggy? So he's got a lot of football to play, especially in league. He can play everywhere. I have heard there is other Premier League interest as well in him, which isn't a surprise. There is a few clubs sniffing around. But I think he'll go, and that will help facilitate Newcastle. I guess we'll talk about later in the show about who they might bring in on the right. And Trippier, it's an interesting one, Trippier is still contract till 2026.
Yeah.
Which, again, caught me back. I didn't realise. He's been wanting out since last January, really, guys, when he really wanted to go to Bayern Munich. But that deal didn't happen. He's got a bit of interest there, but I think ideally Trippier would like to be let go on a free, but I don't think that's going to happen. But Newcastle balance it up. Obviously, if it's all very well giving away for nothing, but you get rid of his wages, and then you don't necessarily have to pay him up the full wage. So I think Trippier's a possible. Depends who wants him. I think Trippier's one. If we see an injury in Europe somewhere in one of the big teams and they need a right back, I think Trippier's one who the clubs will target. So. But I think what's going to hurt him will be maybe like the Kraft injury. Newcastle are pretty thin there, and so I think Trippier will be the one who's maybe impacted most by that sort of injury. That at the end of the day, they might just have to say, "Look, we can't afford to let you go in January." He might be caught out by that.
would. Sorry, Pete. It's in the same topic, but I throw it Graham's direction. Would Borough be interested in Matt Targett? Any chance you take him off us for a while?
I like Matty Targett, to be honest. I think he's talk about unfortunate with injuries. You know, when he was going to make a start in midfield, wasn't he? When he got the injury last season, and Eddie likes him. He's a good squad man. He's good to have around the place. He's the opposite of a troublemaker. He's a really good guy. I would take him at Middlesbrough because we really don't have any decent left-sided players. We've got 3 in the squad, and not one of them can really play much. So I'd happily take Matt Targett off your hands. I think he'd fit into Michael Carrick's system pretty well, to be honest. But it's interesting. Yeah, I think keep an eye on Targett. But again, if you do see a Miggy leave and Trippier leave, they'd probably have to keep him. But yeah, he's not a bad lad to have around. So I don't think they're desperately pushing him out the door this in January. So yeah, it's a possible.
I think there's definitely a good chance. At this moment in time, he looks like his 4th choice. Like if you look at the situation, Lewis Hall, quite rightly, is number 1 right now. Obviously playing for England, playing very, very well. He's our player of the season. We've all said it on this channel so far this season, the way he's been playing. And then you've got Lloyd Kelly as backup at left back, and then you could argue that when Sven Botman's back fit, and that might not be till the end of December, January time, but there's an argument there that Dan Burn can fit in there because he's played there before. So, and I think if Eddie Howe had the choice, he probably would go with Dan Burn over Matty Targett.
I think there's probably more chance of him getting a game in centre mid at some point. That's where he was going to play last year. I can't remember, was it against Fulham where he was going to get picked and then he got an injury in the build-up, didn't he? Where he was actually going to play centre midfield in one game. But yeah, Man
United in the cup.
Oh right, yeah.
He did his hamstring.
Yeah, so he's one of those. In January, it's easier to move these players on than said, and I think Newcastle would have to pay an awful lot of wages for that deal to happen. So I think they'd be more inclined to maybe keep him just to have a body around, especially if you get an FA Cup run and you're still in the League Cup and stuff. And you'd rather a player of his experience than some of the youngsters. So, and he can fill midfield, he can fill full back. I say not first choice, but he's got a lot of experience there. And Newcastle would have to pay an awful lot of wages for anyone to come in for him in January. That is.
Very important comment that has come into the show, not for the first time actually. It's probably come in every show we've had since the last time you were on, Graeme, and it comes from David H. Shout out to David H. He says Graeme Bailey thinks Gallagher is better than Joelinton. Any comments on that, Graeme?
I'd still take Gallagher over Joelinton any day, especially given the wages, especially given Joelinton's contract. They're very different players, though. Joelinton attack offers that in the final third. I think if you're playing a double pivot in midfield, would you like Joelinton to play a double pivot? No, but then again, would you want Gallagher to play on the left side of a 3? No, so they're very different players. But I like Conor Gallagher a lot. One of England's goal scoring heroes. I like Conor Gallagher. I always have. But yeah, and he's doing all right.
And that's enough fuel for David for another 6 months. Thanks, David.
I think they're both having decent seasons, to be honest.
Yeah.
Joelinton started well, had a little bit of a slight dip, and now he seems to be. Now he's playing sort of in the. Well, he's sort of transitioning with Willock, playing in the front 3, then transitioning to midfield. But now he's transitioning with Gordon. He's all over the place. But this is the beauty of Joelinton. He can play so many different roles.
He can. Some would say jack of all trades, master of none, Pete.
I'd argue that one. But yeah,
he's a good Premier League player.
Yeah,
and that's what you do. You can't, and Newcastle. That's what they need. They're good Premier League players. You can't have you're not in that position to have 11 worldies at the moment. But hey, that's where we are. And he fills a lot of gaps in the squad.
Yeah, definitely. He definitely does. One to quickly touch on. I think you might have mentioned it briefly, but Fabian Schar with a multi-year contract to keep him at St James's Park. has been rumoured that discussion's been taking place. Nothing necessarily confirmed yet. So I think Schar himself said it's something that he would want.
You need to put the dates on these, Pete. So you realise people have doing these stories first. You need to put the dates on these, Pete.
Oh yeah, this is way back. This is way back.
Yeah, because I was talking. I'm on Geordie Boot Boys on a weekly basis now, and I was talking to the guys there about it online. Don't worry, it's not a rival show, as you know. Geordie Boot Boys is a written website, and they would say how important Fabian Schar is, because a lot of people tell me that Fabian Schar's arguably the player of the season, Pete. That he's been so important to you. He's been great. Yeah, and over the last 2 years, he's been so good for you. It's like he must go down as one of Newcastle's bargain buys of all time, really. What you've got out of him, but he's like a fine wine, isn't he? He's just getting better. You know, he's got better, but he was signed as a squad player, wasn't he, originally? And he's just got better and better. And I think it's just when we say multi-year deal, we're not talking 4 or 5 years here. it's a sort of 2-year deal. Maybe a 3, but probably a 2-year deal. Where he's been signed in 1-year deals, hasn't he? But yeah, he's well worth it. And I think I think it's been signed off, and I think he will be signing that multi-year contract before the end of the season. I think with him, he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't turn his back on the clubs, but I would. If I was Newcastle, I'd get it done before January, just so he can't get one of those Saudi offers to tempt him.
Yeah, he talked about how happy he is at the club. Like he loves the area, he loves playing for the club.
International retirement's going to do him the world of good as well.
You know what, Graeme? I think it has. I think we're seeing the benefits of that. So you're absolutely right in what you're saying.
And the fact that he's covered, what he's done, I think cannot be underestimated. That's why I think he, last 12 months he'd be arguably a North East Player of the Year. The fact that he's the cover of you've missed Botman, of course you have, but the extent has been totally marginalised by Schar's brilliant form. It really has.
Yeah, he has. And David Cook's put in the chat. He thinks Schar's had a poor season and we need an upgrade. I would agree. I would agree with the last part of that point, David. I think we do need an upgrade. At, 33?
And the club know that as well, David. And that's why they've been. we know over the last few windows when we've been talking, what do Newcastle need, and it hasn't changed for the last 2 windows.
Definitely, I'd agree with that. I think he's done well this season. I think it's been. He's had some moments. Look at what I would say to that is look at some of the defence that he's having to play with, and there's no disrespect to likes of Emil Kraft and I've seen Dan Burn. I think he is what he is, but Schar's had to play with some real makeshift defences. He's been absolutely outstanding alongside some defences where some better centre halves would not have as good a time as him alongside the same players. Yeah. Definitely. But interestingly, as David said, we do need an upgrade. And look, this player's been on the agenda all summer. There's talks that it'll be back on the agenda again, and it's Marc Guehi. Marc Guehi of Crystal Palace. Not had the best of seasons at Crystal Palace, but equally, Crystal Palace haven't had a good season at all. They're having a shocker, in fact. Do you see Newcastle United firstly going back in for a centre back, and if so, do you think Guehi will be on the discussion for January for Newcastle United?
I think a defender is very much still in the side. So it was all summer. Nothing's changed. You've even got worse injuries since the summer, if anything, haven't you? With Kraft going, we know what Newcastle want. They want a right-sided forward and they want a right-sided centre half. Nothing has changed since. From when we spoke probably in May, guys. It's the same. It's the same thing. And Guehi is a player who Newcastle have done the homework on. We know that even the current regime with Paul Mitchell involved, they've made the big bids. We know Newcastle are looking at a few different options around Europe. Paul Mitchell's doing his work. There's quite a few names coming up, and they are doing their due diligence. But Marc Guehi we know he's a player to love. The bid, if you bid what did they go in 75 million for a player in the summer, come January, you're still going to like that player. They've done the background work on him. They like what they've found out. They love him as a player. I think they might, if they come in for him, they're going to make an early bid. and they'll come in and they'll gauge it. And if Palace are not happy to do business, they'll move on quite quickly. It won't go on all January. Obviously, the player himself hasn't signed a new deal, so keep an eye on that. Will the player push for an exit? I don't think he's that type of player, if I'm being honest. But that's part of the reason Newcastle like him. They love him as a personality, as a player. He's an Eddie Howe type player, both on and off the pitch. But I think he will, depending on the fee, if Newcastle had the pick, it would still be him.
How about alternatives to him, though, Graeme? Mike Boyce United here said that Atlanta young lad there who was injured for a while, but who's a football manager legend as well. Scalvini.
Is he back playing in Scalvini? We know he's a player who United always liked. I'm not sure if he's back playing yet, but he might be.
Apparently, he's been training for a few weeks, and there's rumours that he could well be back in the squad. Yeah,
so he won't be moving in January, but he's a wonderful player. Long term, he's a wonderful player. There's a lot of players out there, you know. Obviously, Diamandi saw his name at Sporting, but he won't be leaving in January. Sporting won't be letting them go. There's a few interesting alternatives. You know, obviously Newcastle have only got a certain amount of money to spend. Obviously, we presume that the majority of it might actually go on the right side of forward, and we'll talk about who that is soon. I did a story a few weeks ago about a player at Lawns, Abdul Kadir Kushinov, the Lawns defender. Keep an eye on him, guys. He's outstanding. The Uzbekistan defender. He's only 20, got an awful lot of clubs looking at him. But Newcastle, and he's one who Newcastle have looked at as well. Fantastic player. Lots of options out there for Newcastle. There really is. You know, they've only got we'll talk about the right side of play. Indeed, spend more money on that. It's probably easier. But obviously, if Guehi, we know if it went for Guehi, you're looking, say if Newcastle have got, for argument's sake, 60 to 70 million, you know, Guehi's going to take up a vast proportion of that if it was him. Same as if, you know, so did they go for a slightly cheaper centre-half, a younger version, who can learn off Schar and Botman? That's possible. I think they're considering all options here. But they do still like Guehi. They do. They've done an awful lot of work on him. And
how much would you say he would be worth now? He's 6 months down. In January, he'll have 18 months left on his contract. Again, we're hearing from Palace side of things and from fans that obviously hear things their end saying that he doesn't want to sign a new deal, and it doesn't look like he is. So, how much do you think he would be worth come January time, Graeme?
It's interesting. We'll see. He doesn't. I don't think he will sign a new deal. Newcastle will be aware of that. He's got the same agent as Anthony Gordon. Not after all, so they'll be aware of that. The issue is obviously, I think you're going to have to pay. I think 60 million, might 50 to 60 million. I think you probably have to go to 60 to do it. But do you do that? But the part of the problem as well is Palace. They shouldn't go down even if they lost him, but their predicament at the moment is an issue. You know, so yeah. See, it won't be Branthwaite because he's left-footed, so it won't be him. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think Guehi they do like, but yeah, I think they may try for 50 with add-ons, something like that. We'll see what Palace are thinking, you know, because I don't know what you guys. I still think I think Guehi would be an outstanding fit because you are getting someone tried and tested. You know, if you are going to go for one of these up-and-coming young foreign defenders, yeah, they're going to be half the price, but it's that much more of a gamble, isn't it?
I don't think Newcastle United would be at the table for Guehi at 60 million. I just
been bringing his
with 18
bringing his price down for us as well.
Yeah, I mean the one thing I will say with Marc Guehi, and a lot of Newcastle fans have jumped on it because Palace have been bad, and to be fair, we've talked about it too. Palace haven't been good this season. There's been moments where Guehi hasn't really been great. He scored a couple of goals. He looked dangerous, particularly in set pieces. But I always go back to what I see when he plays for England. When he's playing around better players,
Yeah,
So-
exactly, Pete. And when he's playing in the 4 as well, he's been playing in the back 3 at Palace, and it looks they're all over the shop.
He looks so much better playing for England. Like I watch him play, and he just reminds me of everything we saw.
He was next to Joachim Anderson, so he was obviously playing on the wrong side as well. And like him, I think Guehi and Botman, there's your partnership for the next 5 years. Premier League tried and tested. And you can't underestimate when you're paying that sort of money, guys. You can't underestimate the homework that goes in to the background of these players, the character. And Guehi ticks so many boxes. The fact that of his background, his personality, he honestly, you can't underestimate how good he is. You see it when you see interviews with him. Sometimes you just see it where he's just a lovely guy. And you can't assign 11 lovely guys playing your football team, but he is. He's thoroughly professional, lovely guy. And when you're spending, that sort of money on any player, you like to know that you're getting a good character, and you are with him. And I think that does go a long way for certain clubs, and it does for Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe likes to know the players he's bringing in.
Yeah, definitely. There's a few other players that we've starred, but also there's a few players that people have been throwing in the chat. Thank you for all your comments. It's fantastic stuff. Daz, I think you wanted to do a bit of a quick fire. So
maybe we should. Yeah, because we'll be all night otherwise. So quick fire. Tom asked the question, Jonathan David. Do you think he'll go to us?
Well, it's not impossible, especially if you do lose Alexander Isak, Jonathan David would be a no-brainer, and the accountants would love it, wouldn't they? You sell Isak for 80 and bring in someone for free. The accountants would be doing cartwheels, wouldn't they? He's a good player. He's an interesting player because he's one who Premier League clubs have turned the nose up at in the last 18 months, really. But he's having a spectacularly good season. In the NFL talk, he's having a real contract season, isn't he? He's timed it beautifully for when he's out of contract. He's going to have his pick of clubs, basically, David. And yeah, I think, and we know Newcastle are one of the ones who've been looking. There's probably 15 clubs who are probably looking to make him an offer. When you got a player like that on the free, you throw your hat in the ring, don't you? And Newcastle, I'd be surprised if it weren't one of them.
Yeah, you want him.
Let's go to a fact.
You want him to play with Isak, not in replacement of him. You'd want him to replace Wilson.
Yeah. It's a fair option.
Okay. Peter asked the question. It's a bit of a fantasy question, this one, but he goes, Arda Guler from Real Madrid. He's on loan. He's not getting much game time.
You say fantasy, Daz. Guler is an interesting player where Real Madrid love him. You're never going to get him out on a permanent deal, but he might be available in January on a loan. He's not particularly amused at his game time at the minute. He was spectacular. And when you do take a player on loan, look what happened to Odegaard. Look, they didn't want to let him go, and he ended up at Arsenal, didn't he? And now he's arguably the best midfield. He is one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. Guler's an interesting one. There's a lot of clubs who would keep an eye on this situation where Real Madrid hierarchy do not want to sell him in any way, shape, or form. And they're telling people he's not for sale, he's not leaving. However, would he be available on short-term loan? Quite possibly. Would Newcastle, would that be an option, Pete and Daz? Do you take Guehi and then take a Guler on loan? There you go. That's both your problem positions solved until the summer. I think it's a possibility. I think he's an interesting player and he's a wonderful player. I think he would light up St James's Park. No doubt about it.
That's for sure.
I've been saying for weeks about Newcastle not being afraid or shouldn't be afraid to go in the loan market. It's an area that we haven't explored, and if we have an issue with PSR, for me. And I've been saying it just makes sense. Now, that's not necessarily in relation to Guler, although I would take him because he's a super talented player. He almost reminds me of a similar situation to what Odegaard was in when he was at Real Madrid. Yeah. He wasn't getting minutes. He wasn't getting the games that he wanted. He ended up going on loan a couple of times, then eventually to Arsenal. Then Arsenal signed him, and look what he is now. He's a quality player. And I'm not saying that we're going to do that with Arda Guler, but the scenario that you've given, I think
it's possible. Yeah, the player is frustrated, and there are teams looking at the situation. And I was told Newcastle are one of the. There's only some teams who can afford him, and Newcastle would be one of the teams who could, in theory.
Cool. I'm going to circle back around. I want to kind of lead us into the right winger in a few minutes, but I'll get to these few questions first. But because same question came from the Connor Project on the Mazza from Hertha Berlin for 5 million, and Foxy had the same question as well. And anything on this guy, Algerian?
Yeah, he's in the Bundesliga 2, isn't he? Doing really well. He's got scouts flocking to him. He's one for, I'd say he's more one for the future. But Newcastle are the ones who are looking. They're in that 18-year-old market. They've snapped up a fair few. Newcastle, the scouts know what they were doing. I believe Newcastle are one of the ones, one of a dozen clubs or more to have looked at him. So yeah. We'll go for January. Maybe a deal could be done in January, and then he stay where he is, and then summer. But yeah, Newcastle are certainly looking at him.
Cool. Ryan Cherky. Aaron has come in with Ryan Cherky. Leon with their financial trouble. Do you think that's the one that could be on the move to the Premier League even?
Yeah, he's a wonderfully talented player. He is. He's like that. I can't remember. I was speaking to on another pod about him, and he reminds me of Dimitri Payet, but a younger version. Uber talented. He's been fantastic. Chelsea have looked at him. Liverpool, I think Newcastle in the past have been linked. Obviously, Leon are being threatened with relegation, aren't they? And I'm not sure he's the perfect right winger for Newcastle. I've always said I think Newcastle needs someone like that. It reminds me maybe a Gibbs White type player, someone who can do a dual role about number 10 and the right sided as well. He's a fascinating figure. Paul Mitchell will know all about him. If he's available, then I'm sure Mitchell knows all about him. But I'm not sure I could see Cherky in the northeast, to be honest. I think he may be eyeing a move to London or something like that. And Chelsea do like him. Seems
like the type of character that would prefer a move to London.
Maybe, maybe. He doesn't know what he's missing, does he, both?
I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not gonna lie. I've got to thank my brother for this. He's a French football expert. When I was asking him about the situation with Lyon, because they're relegated potentially with their money financial situations, and I was talking to him about Ryan Cherky, and he said maybe not look at Ryan Cherky, but look at another player, Malik Fofana. A young 19-year-old Belgium international.
Just arrived in the summer, didn't he? Did he signed as the replacement for? Yeah, he was replaced. He was signed as Barcola's replacement, wasn't he, Pete? I think.
I assume, yeah, because they did. That's right.
Yeah, I think he was signed as Barcola's replacement. Yeah, he's a good player. Yeah, I've seen a bit of him. I would say he's more like. Yeah, I do agree with your brother.
He's so good. I couldn't believe
he's more of that winger. He's more of the archetypal type player that I think Newcastle would be looking for. But yeah, an outstanding prospect for sure.
Can play left or right wing. He looks a hell of a talent. So I'll be definitely keeping an eye on him.
Get on the case, Paul Mitchell. A familiar name, Hugo Ekitike.
I was going to say, boys, have you seen the form he's in?
Someone put that he was in France, but he's not. He's playing.
He's at Eintracht Frankfurt. He's playing next to Marmoush, the Egyptian boy, who is all the talk of Europe. I'm sure Pete wants Marmoush because Pete always wants to flavour the month, doesn't he? I do. If you said write the player who Pete wants currently in Europe, I'd have written Marmoush for Pete.
No, it's still Victor Boniface, but yeah,
Boniface, yeah. Is it? Well, I thought you might have said Kalixoy as well, since I put his name. He's having a good season as well.
Yeah.
Boy, send me Kalixoy.
Kilroy, as I call him, from the Turkish lad.
He's a fun. He's now he is what a talent he is. Whoever gets him, he's the Turkish answer to Aguero, that boy. Ekitike, he's doing. It shows what that will do. It'll show Newcastle scouts again, gives them confidence to know what they were looking at when they tried to get him in the first place. None of us had heard of him. I did a lot of stories, at the time, so I do keep an eye on him actually. And and he's still young enough. Who knows? We might see him on these shows at some point. But yeah, he's having a fabulous season, the boy.
Do you think that was Do you think? Sorry, Daz. Do you think that was PSG that was the issue with Ekitike? Because you look at what he did at Rome, and then he went to PSG, and that didn't work out for whatever reason. Obviously, they had Mbappe there, and they had a lot of other top players that they were kind of shoehorning into that team rather than Ekitike. And then he goes to Frankfurt on loan, and eventually goes there permanently. And you're looking at what he does there, and you're thinking the only anomaly there is PSG. And you're thinking, if he'd have gone to Newcastle, could he have created that form that you're seeing now at Frankfurt? I don't know.
I'm sure if you ask him, and there was people in his camp who were of that thinking. Pete, there's people in his camp who were telling him, no disrespect, go to Newcastle now, and then if you show you're good enough for PSG, you can do it in the future. And I'm sure. If he had his time again now, he would take Newcastle. I'm sure he would. It'd be a perfect landing spot for him playing under Eddie Howe, and who knows what we'll be seeing from him now.
3 more questions, and we could then focus on the right winger. But I'll lead you into one I wanted to ask myself is James Trafford, Burnley keeper, played 15, conceded 6, Burnley 4th in the table. Is that something someone Newcastle go in for again in January?
Not in January, no. I don't think a keeper in January. I still think a keeper in the summer will happen again. They'll look at the long-term development. Obviously, you've got your Greek hero in there at the minute, who isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Trafford's interesting. Obviously, you got called to England squad. He's okay. I think although I do say not in January. Keep an eye on Burnley, because if they're not heading for promotion, they will need to sell players. And so, if they're not in and around it, but it's hard to see them dropping out the promotion picture by then. But it's an interesting. I think if it's available, they might have a little dabble. They won't, but not the only one. So, but I think Newcastle might upgrade with a bigger name come the summer, possibly.
You wrote a piece before about potential that Newcastle were one of the teams looking at Luka Kolyosho, and he is a player that we know quite well because he's a player that's played against Newcastle United not too long ago. So, is that something that maybe is still being looked at with Luka Kolyosho?
I wouldn't rule it out, Pete. He's one of my favourite players, Pete. I absolutely love this guy. I saw his debut when Burnley played against Tottenham. I think it was Angie's first game at Turf Moor. And Burnley were cannon for it, apart from this one player. And I didn't know who it was, and it was him. And he was absolutely outstanding. I think this guy has got the world at his feet. I think he is very much the type of player we could see. He's so. I think he's ready for Premier League. I think if he was given more of a chance, it hasn't quite happened for him at Burnley. But I'm not sure the system Scott Parker's playing is suiting him. But I think he's a terrific player. I really do. I love him a bit. I don't think he's playing well enough to get that Newcastle move in January at the moment, but he's such a talent, and he'll move in the summer if he doesn't move in January. But it's a sort of player, I could see Eddie Howe really wanting. Is he? Because we know Newcastle want this right side forwards, but I think you probably need someone else behind Barnes, Gordon, and this other new player. I think you need another one anyway. I think you probably need 2. So especially with Miggy going, because I'm not sure how long Murphy's got left, to be honest. So I think he's a young one. He's a young one for the future. I think he's a brilliant player though. I love him. I think he'd be a great pickup for whoever gets him.
Right, we've got two on the right winger, and let's go for the potential cheaper option first, rather than the more expensive one. And this question comes from James. Love the show, guys. Question for Graeme, the right winger position. Do you think we will look at a younger alternative, Tyler Dibling, and so etc.?
Buonanotte.
Buonanotte. Did Pete put that name in there? Buonanotte, you are not getting. He's £40 million all day long.
That name in there. I know he's a good player. He's doing well at that.
Yeah, I was going to say, you like to throw his big names in, Pete. You're not getting Buonanotte. He's not for sale. He's a brilliant player. He's a little superstar. He really is. He's not going anywhere. So, but Tyler Dibling's interesting. If Southampton get relegated, he probably will be on the move. He's a very good player, guys. Not sure if you've seen much of him, but he's very talented. He's a bit of a. I'd describe a bit of a similar, not dissimilar to like a Grealish, Gordon type player. I think Dibling is exactly the sort of player already how we'll be looking at it. That's a great call. I wouldn't not for January. obviously, because Southampton won't sell in January. But yeah, he's exactly the sort of player who you'd think Howe would love to work with.
We were linked with him about a year ago.
We were, yeah.
And it was a name that we'd talked about.
He's been one of the highlights that I say that he's been one of the few plus points, hasn't he?
Yeah. Right, let's go to a bigger transfer fee after we would knock them out of the cup and beat them in the league. Tom Dixon asks, do you think we'll go for Mbeumo from Brentford?
He's a fascinating player. He's a player, guys, who sits the top of many of these analytics charts, who is fans we don't get to see, but from within football, these analytics people and put all these different algorithms together, etc. And Mbeumo sits very high in the world, really. He really ticks an awful lot of boxes. And Newcastle like him. They're not alone in liking him. I think it's probably good for Newcastle that maybe, I see someone like Spurs, and I even see Arsenal showing interest. He would fit in there. He's got an awful lot of interest, guys. I could see Newcastle doing it, but you're going to have to pay over 50 million to get him. And will they do that in January? I think Newcastle might pay 50 million for a player in January, over 50 million, but it's whether it'll be for the winger or the centre half.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure they know the answer to that. I'm not even sure Newcastle know the answer to that yet, if it was the case. Do you think, I think there's a chance. Newcastle are not alone. They like him. He's a good player. I think he's exactly the sort of different type of player that Newcastle need. He brings goals, and yeah, he's I like him a lot. And but Newcastle, yeah, they're certainly trying for him. They're trying for him.
Could Miggy being sold or moved on potentially be part of the deal to attract them, player for player?
No, Brentford wouldn't take him. No, Brentford aren't. That's silly. Brentford know what they're doing.
All right.
No, Brentford are an analytics club. We're not going to take a 30-year-old on big Premier League wages. Like Miggy's probably on more than Mbeumo. That sums it up. You know what I mean? It's like, so no, Brentford have got the players in place. They already have. They know who they would want to replace Mbeumo. But I think Miggy moving on will help facilitate that deal. Won't be with Brentford, but him going will help facilitate that and give room in the squad. And yeah, I think he's very high at the top of Newcastle's list of what they want. It will come down to the fee. I'm saying a minimum 50. Brentford drive a hard bargain, as we saw with the Ivan Toney deal. They don't need the money. He's not out of contract, so it won't be an easy deal.
So, Graeme, let's go to the chase. Who do you think will bring in the right wing?
I was going through my list of people I've been speaking to and names. I think that Mbeumo was very close to the top. There's a few out there who they like, but I think it will come down to that question, guys. Do they go for the centre half, or do they go for the winger who they spend the big money on? And I think that's the conversation they've got to have. I still think they do like Gibbs White as well. They like Alanga, and I think someone like Johan Bakayoko they like as well. I think some of it will depend on how these next few games go. If you have a very successful time of it, and you don't get any more injuries, I think they might. For some reason, I think they might go big money on the centre half. I don't know why. I've got that inkling. I think they might have to go big on the centre half because I think you're one injury away in defence from having a real Titanic moment of we just can't take any more flooding. Do you know what I mean? You can't take any more injuries. Do you know what I mean? I think you're that close to it because I think if they're playing safe, they go centre half. If they're really going for it, they go on the right winger. But ideally, obviously, the perfect January, guys, is just listening to get one of each.
Do you reckon Joelinton moving into the front three has maybe changed the mindset from the club in terms of looking more at a defender? Because obviously Joelinton was considered one of the midfield three. We're now stopped in that position. Louis Miley's back in.
Obviously Tonali coming back's helped, hasn't it? Massively.
Tonali as well. Joelinton's playing so well against Forest and scoring on the right hand side. If that continues, I don't know.
I think that's a consideration. I think it's a very fair comment, Peter. I think it's a consideration they're making. You know, if how likely are we to get through it with something? You know, if say a Barnes or a Gordon gets injured, can Joelinton fill in there? Yes. If Fabian Schar gets injured, like and Kraft's what are Newcastle going to do then? You know, like what do you do? So I think that's probably coming into the thinking. It's a tough one. I think they might try and do. I think they might try and bring a centre. I think they might try and do both. I do. I think they need to. I think how. I think he won't be demanding, but he'll be putting it very strongly that, you know, if you want to make top 4, which is still a hope, it's still a possibility, it's a real possibility. I think you need both. I do.
Definitely.
Could one of those options then be Rooney from Copenhagen, who's just coming back from a bad injury as well, ACL injury?
No, not for me. I think he's young, he's a prospect. But no, he's not ready to come in and play right wing in the Premier League. No, I'd say he's more of a number 10 for me. It's Rooney Guehi, isn't it? Yeah, good player though.
He's good player.
Definitely, and I do think both positions maybe need to be filled. Maybe from what the discussion's been tonight, that it could be in a completely different way. It could be that we get the centre back, that we play Joelinton on the right wing, and we get Arda Guler to play through the middle. Who knows?
It's, you know, if Wilson comes back fit as well, you know, that adds to the thing where, you know, some games obviously we see Isak playing off the left and stuff, and if Wilson comes back and stays fit, then that could be crucial as well. You know, there's obviously more chance of Pete getting Boniface in than Wilson staying fit, but you know, it's
there's a chance there, Graeme. There's always a chance.
Yeah, there is always a chance, Pete. I think, yeah. I just think, as you say, yeah, I think you're putting the point well, Pete. There are more options to cover that right-sided spot than, as I say, touch wood, you don't get any more injuries at the back. But you know, you're not far away from, you know, being a catastrophe at the back if you get any more injuries, and you can't. You know, I hope you don't get any more. And again, I would say, guys, I hope you don't come looking at Middlesbrough, because we have the best young right-sided centre half in the Championship. So I really hope you don't come looking at Teesside anytime soon. In Van den Berg, he's outstanding, guys, and someone who Newcastle have looked at.
Wow.
He's the best. He's the best young defender in the Championship. He's the brother of Sepp, who just went to Brentford from Liverpool.
Not far to travel either. Not far to travel.
No.
One of our watchers was always in the chat telling us about him as well. Actually,
he's fantastic. Yeah, I don't think thankfully, I don't think you would find a willing Geordie seller in Michael Carrick in January, but I think you'll have to wait.
And there's a question, I'm sticking on Borough. Andy Ford asked Graeme how good Doak is. On loan from Liverpool, is he? Yeah,
he's. Do you know what? He's really fascinating, guys. And I don't know what it is. The Northeast, we love a good winger, don't we? We love like an old-fashioned winger, from the Ginolas to the Stuart Ripleys to the Real Foxes of this world. He's an old-fashioned winger where, you know, he's not a left-footer player on the right. He's not a right-footer player on the left. He's just a brilliant winger with loads of pace who beats his man. And he's great. It's so refreshing. These, you know, at the moment, to be a winger, you have to play inverted, don't you, nowadays? But this guy he runs at defence. It's like they've reinvented the wheel. No, it's just what we used to see back 10, 20 years ago, where a winger plays on his right foot and takes on a defender. He's great, guys. If you get a chance to watch him, he's fabulous. He really is.
It's like we're still raving about Gordon putting in that ball for Isak against Arsenal. It was something we hadn't
from
seen
the right hand side,
time.
from his right. Oh, who knew what you could do when you swing a ball in like that? Yeah, it's a newfangled thing, but he's doing really well. He's been fantastic since he came in. But yeah, unfortunately, he won't be staying on Teesside for too long. But touch wood, he may get us to the promised land. He may.
There's a couple of players that you touched on that you've wrote pieces on that just want to bring up just to get your opinion on a few of these. And some are young, some are more established. We've not really talked about the goalkeeping situation, and we don't expect us to delve into that market unless a goalkeeper or two leaves in January. But a goalkeeper that we've talked about on the channel before, and a goalkeeper we really like, and it's this goalkeeper, Lucas Chevalier, plays in France for Lille. We like going to Lille for our players for some reason. They produce some quality players, and you've mentioned that not only us but Man City have been watching him. What do you make of that possibility, whether in January or the summer?
Yeah, well, Lille, obviously Lille will be serving up Angel Gomez to someone as well in this summer for free, as well as David. They're losing two very good players.
He's got 6 months left in the contract. I didn't realise.
Yeah, he's on a free. Gomez can talk to people on the free. Well, probably one of the one positions you don't need at Newcastle, but hey, you never know. You might throw your hat in the ring. But yeah, Chevalier, wonderful goalkeeper, 23. And a friend of mine actually looks after him, and he told me about him a little bit a while ago. And he's really one of the best keepers in France. Just called into the France squad at 23. Fabulous prospect. And actually done another update on him this week, where Tottenham, United, and there's another team looking at him as well. Just when teams are looking at players, they don't mean for next window, it's like for the future. They're saying who's best out there, and his name's coming up on an awful lot. It really is. And we know Newcastle in the next 12 months they're looking for a new keeper, quite possibly. Keep an eye on this boy. He's potentially very special.
Question marks around Nick Pope and his long-term future at Newcastle. That's an interesting one. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one. A couple of other players. A player that's already been linked with Newcastle United previously, and it's Wale Egley. If I'm pronouncing that right, I apologize.
Is he the Nordirland winger? Yeah.
Yes, it is. Along with West Ham and Palace, we've been scouting the young player. It looks like
Aaron Robins, by the looks of it.
One of the new Aaron Robins. Obviously, as you know, I don't use pictures or headlines, boys, so don't hold that against me.
But yeah, a rising star that looks to be some player, and we've been linked with him for a while. He is.
Nordirland are a fascinating team. You know, this Right to Dream Academy, who are producing all sorts of players, and there's a young left back there, Svensson Dorgeles, a young Ivorian in midfield as well, who I think Newcastle have scouted. But yeah, this guy's special. Plays on either flank, and is the latest one. But he's very good. He's very good. He's not one for January because he's 18, but he's a special talent. And yeah, unfortunately, I think Newcastle need plug and play players to come in and play straight away, don't they? So I think that's what you wouldn't see them going for him in January, necessarily. But he's more than capable, and that was another outstanding prospect, of which there are a fair few. And Newcastle are aware that they're up to date on these young players, and he's one they are fully aware of.
Another one that people might not be aware of here, Bazumana Toure, another player that you've touched on. Dozen clubs have been looking at him. Is that one sort of tentative, or is that more serious? What do you want to think?
Sort of Villa like him a lot as well. He's I think he's Ivorian as well. He's the one who been likened to Yankuba Minte, very much that type of player. Again, hugely talented. Normally plays on the left, which again quite unusual because he is left-footed and he plays on the left. We're not used to that, are we? So he'll probably get converted to the right so he can play the inverted role. But yeah, very much in that sort of scenario. It's very similar to Minte, the way he plays as well. Huge prospect, and you know, there's not many places in the world where you can still get relative bargains, guys. But Scandinavia is becoming a bit of a hotbed at the minute, and obviously Newcastle shopped there before, done the work. So yeah, he's on their radar as well. I think Newcastle are going down this route of signing snapping up these young players from around the world, and it's worked to a certain degree. Obviously, you haven't seen the benefits of it yet. Obviously, Brighton are benefiting from your main scouting missions to Scandinavia, but you can spot them.
And one player that we do know about and was linked with us a lot in the summer, although nothing really ever looked like it was coming to fruition. But you've touched on me as well. Ferran Torres, Villa and Newcastle keeping tabs on him, the former Manchester City player. Not showing any desire to leave, but we know Barca have always got some sort of financial troubles going on. Not likely, or just more sort of keeping an eye on?
No, like, he's a wonderful talent. Everyone, it's hard to remember from his City days, but he's someone who Arsenal and all the Premier League clubs have inquired about. He's just shown no desire to leave Barcelona, though. That's the problem. There's an awful lot of clubs who would take him in England. There really is. But yeah, he's showing no desire to leave Barcelona, unfortunately, and I'm not sure that attitude is going to change. He'd rather play a handful of games at Barca than play a full season anywhere else, unfortunately.
Yeah, we talked about him a lot during the summer, and Barca have a whole lot of right wingers. And I did see a headline with someone saying that Barca were looking at a replacement for him. So. But you're right. He won't go. He wants to stay.
No, but not. And Barca and any of their right wingers sort of sorted itself out because Rafinha's playing so well. I think they're obviously putting their interest in Nico Williams was put to bed a little bit because of the form Rafinha's showing, and he looks like the best player in Spain at the minute.
Yeah, he's a fantastic player. But yeah, they were just a few players touched on. We've got Igor Jesus, striker in Brazil. Another player that we're looking at, but as we say,
interesting player. Just made he's in competition to be their number 9 at the minute. He's at Botafogo, who I think Botafogo if everyone wants to watch him, I think they're in the final of the Copa Libertadores. I could be wrong.
Where's Foxy? Foxy will know.
Yeah, so he's come a lot. He's come on recently, but 23-year-old, I think he is. Very good player though. Keep an eye on him. He is good. He is. Yeah, they are. I was right. Tap myself on the back. So on the 30th of November, Botafogo in the final against Atletico Mineiro upset River Plate. Was it River Plate? The upset? Because it was River Plate because Echeverria was meant to be playing the new Man City player. But yeah, keep an eye. If you want to watch that, Igor Jesus will be leading the line for Botafogo in the final of the Copa Libertadores, and be a lot of Premier League clubs at that game.
Interesting. And yeah, he played for Brazil against Venezuela the other day, and so yeah, he's obviously playing internationally, so definitely recognised as one of those top players in Brazil. So definitely one to keep an eye on, that's for sure. And yeah, I think that in terms of the players that we had available, that was it. I don't know if anything else has come up on the chat, Naz.
Yeah, there's a few more. Chris Hall, you'll have to go back to the middle of the show where we talked about Ryan Cherky. Don't worry, we asked that question for you, Chris. But Chris asked another one. He says, another question for Graeme. Brighton are heavily stocked in the winger department. Do you see us moving for anyone bar Minta?
What, Newcastle move for Brighton winger? Brighton, I said they're very well stocked. Obviously, the new manager loves a winger, doesn't he? Hertzler, seemingly does love a. Not really. I don't think they're in the market to sell. They did sign Ruta, who I think anyone who didn't sign Ruta got off lightly. Not a huge fan of his, to be honest. But no, I don't think Brighton are in the mood to sell. Really. But you never know. But no, I'm not hearing anything from Brighton. It's like, and no, Newcastle and Brighton is a bit of a sour subject, isn't it? At the minute, Brighton and Minter. You don't really like to look at Brighton too much, do you guys? Mitoma would be obviously the one who you'd love to sign it. He's a genius, isn't he? But yeah, if I was Newcastle fans, I wouldn't watch Brighton too much because you just get sick every time you see Minter having a great game.
Yeah, we'll see. Fox is coming today. He's a good centre back. He's a very good centre back. Sorry, Dad. Go on.
This one, yeah, okay. I was going to go for another Foxy question, but we go with this one. Question for centre backs for Graeme. Can you see the Valencia centre back, Christian Mosquera?
Mosquera, yeah, he's a Spanish national. I do actually. Sure, I did a story about him the other week. He's a fascinating player. He's only I believe, but he's played a lot of La Liga games. He's one of their first choices. Spanish with Colombian heritage. He is someone who I think would be on Newcastle's radar as an option. He's available. I think he'll be available for around 30 million. They are a selling club, Valencia. We know that. Yeah, he's an interesting one. He really is. He ticks an awful lot of boxes for Newcastle. He is only 20. So, yeah, keeping that. He's good. Liverpool. A lot of Premier League clubs are looking at him. They've actually had a real surge of young centre halves at Valencia. There's three of them come through. There's a Polish sounding boy, Yannick Garysowski, who's come through, and there's another player there called find his name, but Tariga. So they've actually got room to sell. So that's why someone like Mosquera might be available, because they've got Garysowski and Tariga, and so Mosquera might be available. So he might be a cheaper version, but he's only 20. But he's played over 50 first team games. Very good player. Yeah, but it's a good name to come up, that one.
Playing for the Spanish 21s as well. Played against England the other day, just over the weekend. So he's obviously got potential.
Yeah, he's a very good player. Very good player. He's got and a lot of these Premier League clubs now are looking at these deals, guys, to get these players before, like where it used to be you let these players move on and then you pay the 60-70 million when they moved on. They're going to the source now before they get to the next club and move it. Real Madrid have learned. That's what Real Madrid have done. They learned the lesson from the Eden Hazard deal, thinking, let's just go to the source and get them. So that's why we're seeing the Endrick deals and this sort of thing. And that's what a lot of clubs now are trying to get players from source rather than waiting for them to go to the next club.
And then it's the trying to keep them happy, as in Arda Guler situation. That's the other side of it. Foxy asked one here from a while back as well. He says, Graeme, the Argentine Thiago Almada was expected to arrive to Lyon in January, but what would happen now? He would be the pick of the players from Lyon, says Foxy.
Interesting. Yeah, didn't he just make his debut for Argentina? Thiago Almada, is that the right one I'm thinking of? He hasn't played. He hasn't played much. Because he's another one who was he's a part of the John Textor family, isn't he? Who was at Botafogo. Yeah. He was interesting. He was interesting because Newcastle will know about him because he was at Atalanta United, where he was. I think he was the biggest sign in MLS history or something. So it's someone who Newcastle will know about. I just don't. He's a good player. He would be. I don't disagree with Foxy there. I think. He's an interesting player. We'll see how this Lyon situation pans out, because I think that was the plan for him to go to Lyon. But so it could be an interesting pickup as well. That, but just an interesting name.
It was just after Miggy left that they signed him. It was almost, you could argue, with like a replacement with regards to that.
I'm going to go to this one for the Clonard, but just going to point to the Clonard that we talked about, that Atlanta prodigy earlier in the show. Sorry, Pete. Yeah.
Can I just add to this? Because I think this is a really interesting situation with Scalvini, because he's a superb centre back, and Graeme talked about him earlier in the show. So anyone that's watching now, go back and watch what Graeme said. But I've just had a look at this, and I'm gonna put it up on the screen just so we can all see it. I've just had a look at Atalanta's squad. Now I'm looking at the squad here, and you can see Scalvini here. Look how many centre backs they've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 centre backs, all experienced and all good players. You've got Chris's friend here, Ben Godfrey, in there. Hey Ben. We've got Kolasinac, who was at Arsenal. Toloi, if I'm pronouncing that right, Brazilian international, or was. We've got Cosanuno, who we were linked with, who played for Leverkusen.
They do play a back three though, Pete. So they do need slightly more than most.
Yeah, but even then, they've got 3-4 backups, potentially. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying
he's a wonderful player. Scalvini won't be leaving in January though. And there's nobody going to pay that sort of money for him in January after the injury he's just had.
How much do you reckon he's worth right now, Graeme?
Scalvini, what is he? 20, full Italian national. Oh, you're talking 60 million at least. He's a brilliant player. He's one who United were, you know. I think if he'd been fit when they were going for Euro, he'd have been. United loved him. There's lots of Premier clubs love him. Yeah, he's a fantastic player. He's not a bargain. He'll be 60 million all day long. I would think.
Right-footed, but can play either side of the centre-back pair.
Yeah, he was. I think he was at Euros with Italy. Did he make the? Or was he injured just before the Euros? Wasn't he? That's when he got injured.
Yeah, he's been out for about the last 5 months. He missed the Euros.
He was due to go to the Euros with Italy. He's that good. Yeah, he's a little superstar. I don't know. I'd expect him to join one of the Italian giants, but we always do, don't we? But yeah, it's interesting. And I'm actually surprised that no one's brought up the other Atalanta player who might take that right hand side in Ademola Lookman. Oh, I'm surprised that because he's a player on a lot of radars in the Premier League. The former Everton guy, he's a little superstar as well. He's very, very good. Probably more centrally than most, but he can play that side. Can play either side. He's a really terrific player. I think he's been he's been nominated for African Player of the Year as well.
He did have a great game in that final that he wins, and obviously he's got a few goals in that one.
But obviously Atalanta are going really well, so I think they're going pretty well in Serie A, aren't they? So from memory. So yeah, they're going for the challenging for the title, so it makes it highly unlikely that Atalanta allow anyone to go, because if they can win they don't get many chances to win Serie A, do they?
A very important question from Dave Woolman here. He goes, are you confident of a couple of signings in January, or do you think we'll wait until the summer? I think Newcastle do.
I don't think. I think you need the two signings. I think you'll do everything you can. I think you'll definitely get one, and I'm 75% certain you'll get two. But it may depend on. You need Miggy out. I think he's the one you really need to get out to help. Yeah, I think there's a good chance you get two. I think you definitely get one, and then but it needs to be done early. But yeah, and I think I think it'll help. I think having a good December will help because looking at your fixtures there, you should be, I think you'll be right in top 4 contention by the time we come to January, which will aid Eddie's pleas to get more players in.
It's crossed, fingers crossed. But yeah, Niall just put was Lookman not at Fulham. He was at Fulham. Didn't do very well there. Did really well at Leicester, and Leicester is still fans are still kicking themselves for allowing him to leave. He had a great loan there, like coming off the bench.
Well, Everton will be as well, though. Everton love a winger.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. But
it wouldn't be a show with Graeme unless we asked the question, and it comes from Tom Dixon. Chris Rigg, where's he off to now? Is he still thinking about Newcastle?
I think Newcastle are thinking of him more than he's thinking of them, unfortunately. But this lad is, I told you guys a long time ago how special he was. He is the nearest thing to Jude Bellingham we've seen in a long time in Championship. All the hype about his brother, don't believe it. Chris Rigg's the real deal. He really is. Newcastle are throwing the hats in the ring. It'll depend whether Sunderland go up or not. Obviously, we don't think they will. Obviously, none of us here want them to. So the chances, I think they might just miss out, unfortunately for them, on the top 2. So I think they will lose him. And then Rigg will have his pick. As it stands right now, from what I'm hearing, I'd make Manchester United slight favourites to land him.
Yeah, he's always been linked to Man United, right, as well as us.
I think if you guys were going to get him, I think you had your chance last summer and the summer before. I think that's when you should have got him. But I think it may be. It's not beyond you, of course. You're a huge club, but given the rest of Europe looking at him now, I think he's really weighing up his options. But it'll be up to the lad. He's gonna. It's like Bellingham. It's literally like Jude Bellingham. He's gonna have his pick of clubs wherever he wants to go.
Let's go over this one from RF. He goes, any potential loans from the Saudi League? Do you think that's an option? It never happens for us, but
it's interesting. I still can't get a straight answer from the high ups at Saudi why they don't do this. I think they're protecting themselves a little bit, because I think the Saudis, I did a report on TBR, they're really going to have a big summer, the Saudi Pro League. I think that you're going to see them have a really big summer. I think they're trying for Salah, and they'll get others. I think they're going to have a huge summer, the Saudi Pro League. The loans are not easy because you get the tax issues and stuff, and I think as we go these I can't remember the tax laws. I do beg your pardon, guys. I think you have to be there for 2 or 3 years before you can qualify for it. So I think once that comes, we may see a few. And if anyone is going to benefit from the loans, you would think it would be Newcastle. I think obviously we'll see what happens with this Man City case and the rules get tightened up. But again, I'm all for it. Piff, if I was Piff, and I think it's probably been considered, yeah, let's get some of these players on loan to Newcastle. Why not? You haven't got any sister clubs in the mid, but you've got the 4 Piff clubs in Saudi, really, with some pretty special players. So I haven't heard that, but no, I think the issue with the tax and stuff and the wages, I think it's a bit difficult this time around. But I think it will come a time in the next 12 months where that becomes more likely.
Awesome. No, let's round up with the sponsors, and we'll let you go, Graeme. But I just want to give a shout out.
Let me go. Peter, you're the one that's getting ready to watch the jungle. You told me that off air. You got to get going before the jungle starts. He's been watching Colleen all week, Pete. He's been watching Colleen all day.
Not me, him. He was watching the jungle.
An hour for the jungle.
Daz loves the Wagatha Christie, all of it.
Anyone keeping an eye on Wayne Rooney? What's he up to while she's out there? That's all I'll say. But right, our shop. Just wanted to let you guys know that and you'll see it scroll across the bottom. There is 20% off the Loaded shop, and it's at loadedmagNUFC-shop.fourthwall.com. You'll find us in there. So 20% off everything in that shop, and it's automatically applied at checkout, so you don't need any code or anything like that. Also want to give a shout out to the Radiator Shed and just play this little jingle. Graeme likes to look at those radiators.
Well, I was about to say, Daz, where on the advert, and they must do this. Where's the black and white striped radiator?
He has one. Russ has one. He has a specific one. I thought it would be. Yeah, because and you can get it in you can even get it in borough colors, I think. But he was working on that. It was months ago. I was talking to him about it, but I saw a picture of it, so it does exist. Go talk to Russ about it, and it looks pretty smashing. But for 20% off, contact Russ at theradiatorshed.com or call him on 077 666 04112, and Russ will sort you out. That's pretty much it for the show. We are back on Thursday for away days. I don't have the picture in the system, Pete, because this I can't get anything done these days. But yes,
he's too busy watching the jungle, Pete, isn't he? Too busy watching the jungle.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here, Graeme. I'm glad you're here. But no, we're really excited to have Dan Lawless come and join us. He's ready for war. He is ready for war. But yeah, that is true. And yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to Dan United. If you haven't watched on 12th Man, we had a quiz special last night, and of course Dan did win. We were neck and neck right till the end, me and him. Lawless and the rest were right down the bottom, but he beat me by one. But check out that; it's a great show.
I saw it advertised. I thought it was just an Arsenal one. I was like, oh, I'm not watching that. But if I'd known you're on, I would have watched it.
But
even ahead of the jungle.
Yeah, after the jungle, give it a watch. But Lawless is back and he's ready for war. He thinks that West Ham are going to topple Newcastle United on Monday. So we will be in that chat on Thursday, 8:00, to show him that we are coming for West Ham.
Could be his last game.
That's what I said. So we're going to get the lowdown on that with Dan Lawless on Thursday. So make sure you're there.
I have a question for
supporters. And
I have a question ready for Mr. Lawless, because I saw him talking about it with Big Dave about it. Would they take Rafa? Because the Rafa was being mentioned, and they don't like the thought of that.
Oh God! Going from Moyes to Lopetegui to Rafa. What have West Ham ever done to you, Daz? Do you, mate?
Yeah. And
So
look,
see what his reaction is.
William,
I'd rather have Colleen Rooney.
We're all there, William. Even Graeme, Blue Sky. We're all there.
We're there.
Yeah, I am. I am, guys. I am on Blue Sky, but I'm on Threads, Blue Sky, and on X. But I don't politicize things. X is still the best, but hey, Blue Sky looks alright.
Yeah, we'll give it
up and comer.
Yeah, it's going to take a while, but hey, use them all. Why not use them all?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, to Chris, we'll have to tell him about this in 3 months' time. Chris catches up with everyone else. Right, that is it. Thanks, Graeme, for joining us, and of course, as always, answering all our questions and the chatters' questions. Always great to have a catch up and a chat with you. And hope best of luck to Borough until we speak to you again.
Well, hopefully we join each other in the third round, hey, and we can have a chat before the January transfer window when you're going to be. Now, I was saying I'll catch you in early January, but I get the feeling looking at those fixtures, you're going to be unbearable at the start of January. So we'll see how we go. Peter will be bouncing off the ceiling. It'll be all. Looking at those fixtures, I think you guys. Oh, come on! I think you guys will be in. I think you guys will be in third place by the time we speak again.
Oof. I'll take that, Graeme. I'll take that.
I do. I don't see how you're not going to win the vast majority of those games. I don't see how you're going to lose them.
Yeah, we're getting you back on if we're in and around those positions, Graeme. You're coming back on, and we're going to talk about this more. That is sure.
But I think it'll be a massive. And I think that's when they need to act. That's when you need to give Isak his new deal. Go and sign a new right wing. Go and sign the centre half. You need to ride that wave of enthusiasm.
But I just want to ask Eddie Howe what he thought of that comment from Graeme.
Yeah.
He likes it. He likes it. Love it.
And so do
Love it. Right. That is it. And since we started talking about Isak at the start, we have to play out with Isak. But see you all soon. See you Thursday. So don't forget the jungle. Good night, everyone.